Hey everyone, I know we're a week late, but I am just catching up on Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5, Feel Her Love. One thing I love about these television shows and having the titles on hand is kind of the interpretations that these titles can have. So, Feel Her Love can mean a number of things in this episode. Probably most obviously, Feel Her Love is a saying that the Seraphites use in reference to the prophet, but it could also mean Feel Her Love in regards to Ellie and Dina, or maybe even the love Nora has for Abby in protecting her towards the end of the episode, or maybe the love Ellie has for the now deceased Joel, that Nora is feeling at the end of this episode as well. There's also one more example of this potential interpretation that happens at the very beginning of the episode, which is not in the video game. The episode starts off with a WLF agent or officer who is describing a situation that is happening at the second basement of the hospital. She ultimately describes sending in her son to ultimately his death, because what they didn't realize is in the second basement there are spores in the air, so it can spread through the air, and so the son asked for the mother to seal off the basements, and that's what she does, sealing her son to presumably die. This act of love, the love of her fellow wolves at the sacrifice of her son, is in stark contrast to what Joel did in season 1, in which he ultimately chose Ellie over what could potentially be the entire world. So I thought that was a very interesting scene to have in the show, because that's not something that we had while playing the games, or at least I don't remember any messages or notes of that kind in the game. As usual, we do see that Dina is very much the leader of this duo. Ellie does seem like she's happier now, but also contemplating taking Dina back, because she doesn't want to put this unborn child at risk. Which is kind of strange, because as you could probably assume, in this world, people might get pregnant, and with hospitals and medicine the way they are, I feel like child mortality rates would be fairly high. I would think that at this moment in time, either Ellie would give up everything and return back home with Dina, or say, we need to stick together for our best chance of survival, because we don't know if that child is going to make it anyway. So I always thought that was a very interesting scene in the show. It really gives a sense of humanity to Ellie, whereas in the game, I felt she lost a lot of her humanity right from the very beginning when Joel is murdered. So that was quite interesting. But I do think it fleshes out Dina a little bit more. We get to hear more about her backstory, her motivations. We know that she's there ultimately to protect Ellie. Maybe she doesn't feel Ellie is prepared enough or can think straight, and so she wants to be there for Ellie in that way. So as the episode continues, we do see that there is a patrol that Dina has sort of triangulated and figured out that there's a gap in their patrol. There's a specific building that they do not go to, and that could be a way to pass across. And this is a very interesting scene because there are these clickers that are sneakier than the average clicker, you might say. And so we got to see one of them early on in this season, but this was a whole group of them, which is really scary. If I were playing this game, that would be quite a scary scene. And so in this moment, Dina and Ellie give up their plans of not shooting and say, all right, Dina, I want to protect you because I can not be infected. But really, this is kind of a desperation attempt on Ellie's part. She knows she'll probably get ripped apart, at least bleed to death or something of that nature. So this is really a sacrifice play on Ellie's behalf to save Dina. And when all things are pretty much lost, Jesse comes in at the last second and really saves the day. But their cover is blown because all these gunshots were fired. So now that the wolves are coming to check out what's happening in this building, the three, Jesse, Dina, and Ellie, run through the park. And this was a scene that I had been anticipating and hoping to see because I remember really being startled in the game when you first hear that whistle and then the arrow comes and hits. It tags Ellie in the shoulder. It is a very startling scene. So I'm glad we got to see some of that and hear how menacing the whistling can be. We also got to see the quote-unquote cleansing that the Seraphites do, which is to basically cut open just a person and let their guts fall to the ground as they are hanged. Quite gruesome. It was a little bit more graphic than I thought it would be, so it was interesting. And yeah, the group had to split up because in this version, Dina gets hit with an arrow in the leg, and so she cannot run. Jesse needs to pick her up and then escape. We also do find out that Jesse came with Tommy, and that they were doing recon. So they split up and they're going to rendezvous in the morning. Ellie tells Jesse to carry Dina and then make his way to the theater. He knows that the girls were staying there because he found the triangulation map that Dina was creating for the patrols. And Ellie, what she does is she runs and goes the opposite direction to draw the Seraphites away. And it's kind of at a blistering pace. Ellie does quickly just end up at the hospital, which was kind of interesting because as compared to the games, these are out of order. Ellie runs into some of the group that ambushed Joel prior to getting to the hospital. So it'll be interesting to see how the order gets changed and shaken up, how things get shaken up. But there was like a school and a tower and a couple other things that happened prior to getting to the hospital. But in any case, Ellie gets to the hospital, somehow runs into Nora there. There's this chase scene which leads Nora to, in desperation, open the elevator and go down to basement level 2. And there we can see these spores being created. That Wolf agent's son is stuck down there creating these spores through his breath. It's really sad to see this kind of parasitic and symbiotic relationship that's happening, keeping him alive just so that he can spread more spores down there. And then we see that Nora is starting to immediately get affected. She's visibly sick. Ellie chased her down there, and we do see her seemingly unaffected by the spores. And this is kind of a revelation for Nora, like, oh, you're the one. You're the one that we've always heard about, the one that is immune. And it's really kind of crazy to see the red lighting on Ellie, and to see her descend into this darkness, trying to get the information on where Abby is. Nora refuses to give that information, and the episode ends with Ellie just smashing her legs, just in a very similar way to how Joel was treated in that cabin. Then at the very, very end, we do see what is the beginning of a flashback episode, so where we get to find out a little bit more what has been happening in Jackson since the end of season 1. So knowing the game, that there's going to be a lot of revelations there, and that'll lead us right up until the end of season 2. So we're already getting close. Show has been great so far. I hope you're enjoying it as well. And I will hopefully have the next episode reviewed fairly soon. Okay, well, thanks for joining me. Bye.